Goeiedag and welcome! Today I will be doing for you my February wrap-up. I already thought that I had an ambitious TBR, but it turned out I read some more books, I believe, than were on there. I had a TBR of 8 books and I read less, or 8, and I will show them to you now. First, I read the final book in the Dolphin Diary series, translated in Dutch, simply because when I was younger this was my favorite series, but the final book had not come out yet when I read it. It has been out now for a very long time and I never read it, but when I read it I discovered that why I like this series so much when I was a younger child, and I'm happy that for nostalgia reasons I rebought the entire series. The next book I read was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Well, I did not like this book. I have a review for it and I will link it down below. I will not talk anymore about this, except for the fact that as soon as I get a chance, possibly, I will sell it online and unhaul it, because I don't want that thing to take up a lot of time on my a lot of room on my shelf, because that's just a waste of space. Next I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire, which I really liked. But of course, since the book is this tiny, the characters have not been developed very deeply, and I am curious what the next installment brings, because that's technically a horror story of Jack and Jill, and they end up back into their horror land. I'm curious about that. Then I read an entire book series in German. The first part being Ginland. The series is called Die Sturmkönige. The second part Wunschkrieg, and the third part Blutsand. I read those books next to listening to the audiobook, and the audiobooks of those books are so incredibly good. They are so atmospheric and they leave out all the emotion parts that are unnecessary. If you read it, it is necessary to read it, but it's just acted out very well. The voice actor does the most creepy of voices when it fits the character, and the way the characters acted, I really like that. They acted like their age. They are about 20 years old in these books, which is, in my opinion, not a bad thing. It's still a YA, but more of an adult YA, and the characters did not act as juvenile as in a lot of the other YA books. For example, this book almost starts off with a sex scene on a flying carpet. These books are 1001 Nights retellings, and if you can read German, I would highly recommend these 3 books, but the editions that I have are the first print and are not being sold anymore. It literally took me 3 months to get this one, because hardly anybody sells it anymore, if they still exist in a wide range of people's hands. They might be, a lot of them might be destroyed, but I think the newer covers also suit the story very well. Since I started reading it, the newer covers I first hated started to grow on me, but I still like these ones best. Now we get into my semi-final book, which is The Forgetting. A definite slow burn and definitely character-based. This is something that you have to be into. It is a story about a girl who lives in Canaan, I think you pronounce it like that, and every 12 years everybody forgets, but nobody knows why, except for one person, and that person also turns out to know how to reverse it. And the whole story is about what the forgetting actually is and why the main character does not forget. So I found it very interesting. it's very much character based, and the main character seems to be very introverted. I am curious about what the sequel will bring. I usually do not like a lot of YA books, but this month I read more than a couple that I actually did like. The sequel is called The Knowing, and I am curious what it will bring, so maybe I'll get it, buy it, or maybe borrow it from the library. I don't know. We will see. And then the final book I read this month, which is The Resurrectionist by E.B. Hotspeth. This I thought was would be a fantasy book, but it turns out to be the real story and biography of a doctor that mostly lived at the end of the 1800s, and who built up the basis of medical embryology. I recognize it happening in this book, but also in a later stadium he got fascinated by mythological creatures with a human base, and they should have existed a long time ago, but since it was not the perfect form, they died out, and he made his life's work of it to recreate those creatures in a living manner, but also to draw beautiful, beautiful, detailed anatomical graphics of them. I will see if I can find a beautiful one, because there is a couple stunning ones of mermaids in here, also of other creatures, but I like the mermaids a lot. Well, I cannot find it, but here we have the ones of the Pegasus. All the bones and muscles are detailed in here. It's just like a real anatomical atlas. And I have had to study from those since I studied biomedical sciences and had to learn a lot of anatomy. All the muscle names totally fit with what it is called like in real life by medical professionals, but also if you have a little bit more anatomical knowledge than just a person who only learned the basics, just like with bones. And I recommend it for all of the fantasy fans that might watch this, and also just people who are interested in medical history. But this is the final book I read this month. And this is it for now. Thank you for watching, and tot de keer!